So what are some best practices around, optimizing your resume or other documentation for computer scanning with these ATSs or applicant tracking systems? The systems, the ATSs, are designed to prefer the chronological or hybrid type format. They don't like that whole skill format where you might list a skill like leadership skills and you list your 3 jobs or different things you did that, and you list another skill like, whatever, Microsoft Office, and then you list the different places you use that. It's designed and like that chronological work experience thing, and it could be that hybrid where it lists the job and then your skills and things you did on there, the next job and skills and things there when we talked about earlier lesson about formatting. So the ATS prefers that formatting, so that's one reason I prefer that formatting as well. That's why I particularly like the hybrid format. Go back and look at that lesson, and if you jump to this part around formatting resumes and why hybrid is good, even beyond just the machine part. They also, in the past, they really liked a certain type of file type. You might have heard folks like, don't upload your resume in a PDF, because it's harder to read for the machines. Do it as a Word document, like a .doc, DOC or DOCX type of document. The machines have improved since then, by the way, and they can read PDFs because most people put it as uploads as PDF or want to, because the PDF is harder to change a PDF. There's ways to do it, but it's harder to change, and you don't want people messing around with your resume. A Word document, obviously, it's designed to be easy to change. Now, when you're applying or uploading things, it might say when you're doing an online application, it might say please up your resume in a .doc or Word format. That's a clue that a machine's obviously going to look at, but it prefers that format. When in doubt, nobody's going to die if you upload it in 2 versions. The same resume, one is a Word document, one is a PDF, and then most people aren't printing them out anyways. But if they do, then they get 2. It's the same thing. They'll just like, okay, whatever. Main thing is that it's easy for the machine to read. So when in doubt, do Word, but understand that if you're reading stuff where it's, oh my God, never do a PDF, it's for most applicant tracking systems. They've improved on that a great deal, and it's usually not an issue. One thing that is very important is that you use a simple font. I don't know if you can see in the brackets there where it says the words "not this," because the font it's just hard to read, right? I mean, think about how hard it is to read that little part that says "not this" type of font for you and I. Now think about machines. Machines have a hard time reading certain fonts as well, or don't recognize certain fonts. So Calibri or Helvetica has certain common fonts, standard type fonts out there, that are used in all sorts of documentation. Use a simple font, not some weird script type font. Again, if your language is different, where it's more of a script thing like Arabic or something like that, that's a different thing. But, even then you want to use a font that's easy for a human to read, but also easy for a machine to read. And then label your sections right too, like work experience, it seems basic, but like professional summary, work experience, that kind of stuff, especially work experience. The machines kind of highlight on those, and they see machine reads work experience, and the machine knows like, oh, I got to look closer at this section because this is where I'm going to find a lot of my keywords. It's not to that degree, but it's better. It actually, makes it easy for the machine to find and identify things and match up things. That this is work experience, not necessarily volunteer experience or just some random words out there. Again, the interesting thing about the machines or algorithms or computer software, I use those interterminally. I know it's not a real robot, it's a computer algorithm, whatever, but with these applicant tracking systems. But the thing is, they're not smart. They only know to look for keywords. They can't tell that Office 365 includes Microsoft Excel in that suite of software products. They just are looking for words like Excel. A couple other best practices too is keywords are so important. That's where it's pulling from job description or action verbs, leadership, whatever it might be, led a team, those kind of words that they're looking for. That's where we talk about, like, at the top, especially where we might list out just lots of skills, right? Great Plains software, QuickBooks software that we listed when talking about earlier lesson, or certain programming languages or software or other types of hard skills, but also soft skills, leadership, communication, team building, some of those things. Look at your job descriptions you're applying on. There's going to be commonality of those types of words. You want to have those in your resume, and the machines or the ATS is going to go look for those things. It's really, the whole thing it's designed to do is look for keywords. Avoid acronyms too. If it's smart enough or designed enough or it's asked for to look for CFP, then the ATS will look for that acronym CFP as opposed to, it might be working for things certified financial planner, which is what a CFP is. And it's looking for words like financial planner or financial or certified. You might be looking for that and not recognize that a CFP is a certified financial planner. It's the applicant tracking system is not smart enough. All it's looking for is keywords. If you looked at the lesson on infographic resumes, I talked a little bit about this here too. To avoid images and charts and things in your uploaded documents and your resumes, particularly uploaded documents because they're uploaded because they're going to probably go through an ATS, and almost everybody's using uploading a document. We're going through an ATS system. Certainly 98% of Fortune 500 companies, large companies. So to avoid images and charts, because again, an ATS is looking for keywords, they can't interpret your chart. They can't, like this image I have on the screen here, so the best practice with a thumbs up. An ATS would have no idea what that is, especially if the text of best practice is embedded in that whole image. That is one picture, one image to the ATS, and it'll just skip on by. Where if it's looking for words like best practice or best practices, then it would find it if it was in a text type form. So even though I love images and I love graphics and things, certainly to communicate with human beings, with an ATS, it doesn't work well. And remember, though, you have to have a balance for the future human reader, too. You don't want to have this big, long list of keywords. I mean, I've seen some applicants where half their resume is like just keywords. It's just keywords all over the place. And I know what they're doing. I don't hold it against them too much, but I don't get to learn enough about their work experience because so much is devoted to throwing every keyword out there. The other thing, too, is with this, I don't necessarily believe when they're throwing out 1,000 keywords that they know all this. So just think about the job description. What are the common keywords, the common things? Have those things, have them be part of your resume and your story. But remember, the success factors on here, we want to get past the applicant tracking system, but then we have a human person who's going to screen it too before they even call for interviews. They're going to start eliminating resumes as well, or applications. And then you're going to get to the interview process and people are going to look at your resume as to aid them in doing an interview with you. So you have to find that real kind of balance between, I can't get in if I can't get through the ATS screening gate, but I can't get any further if I can't get through the human screener. And by the way, I can't get a job offer if I don't have an easier to read resume for somebody to scan easily during an interview process too. So it's quite a balance. It's an interesting thing. So, let's look at some of those good examples that we have and you've seen other places too. But we need to take away from all this is understand that applicant tracking systems are designed really primarily for one thing, which is to screen you out. And we want to make sure that we have a resume that will work well or a CV that will work well with that. In fact, I have a nice tool that will help you where you can evaluate your resume with this tool to see how it would work with an ATS. So it's kind of cool. We're going to look at that next.